Hello and welcome to Stitch by Stitch series, chapter-wise conversations with me and Sarah, co-authors of 13 Stitches. I am Sneha, and today we are going to be unsewing the seventh stitch, that is the scent of anosmia. Sarah, over to you.
Okay, hi guys, welcome back. And today's episode is really sizzling because I was just going through this chapter, and Sneha, I was thinking, just going to use a metaphor here. Imagine being a painter, but you slowly start losing your ability to see a color. Okay, these people are known
Oh
as
my gosh.
color-blinded people, right?
I,
And I'm not
yeah.
saying that your chapter has that, but it has something similar to. There is a loss, but we are not going to disclose what the loss is going to be like. So, when a
Yes.
color-blinded person is trying to figure out the colors, they can still move a brush. They know where the strokes will go. But what made it theirs, they also don't know because there is
They
no
don't know.
spark to it. Just they just know the feel of it, but it's not there
Yeah.
anymore for them right there. So technically you're still painting, but it's just not you anymore. It's
Yeah.
like something
Yeah.
what's in your brain. So I'm just going
Correct.
to casually throw this out to you because your chapter, your protagonist doesn't just face a loss, but faces a shift in identity. And I really wanted to ask, how do you think it feels when something you love doing suddenly starts to feel distant or unfamiliar?
Yeah, that's a very deeply evocative question, and it opens up a very powerful reaction, I
Mm.
feel. Like, to resonate with the context, I would say that when you're very passionate about something and it starts to feel distant or unfamiliar, it profoundly becomes very disorienting for the person. You don't really understand where your passion is tied and where your emotion is tied now, because the sensory memory of, you know, something is always embodied with an experience. Like, you go to a certain place, see a certain thing, you there is a certain vibe which has a lot of other senses apart from your visual senses that you're using, and when that is lost, the
Mm.
experience is lost. So when the familiarity fades, it's always because of the love that you had for these things that
Mm.
disappears with the familiarity. And it's often because it's the way you connect with what has changed, so that connection is lost. I don't know if I complicated the answer, but what I mean to say is that when you lose something that is very familiar, you lose the whole experience with it.
I've also been thinking about how sometimes life takes away that particular thing that defines us, like you're trying to specify here. But
uh,
so quietly sometimes we don't even realize that it is slipping away. Okay,
right,
and
right.
it's not supposed to be dramatic. It's not always dramatic. It could be a sense, a feeling, or even a connection, like you're talking about, to something you love. And imagine being so deeply rooted into your craft. Like, I love writing, I really love poetry, and then someday I just lose the jazz. I can't even think about it right now. So but then
So
yeah, the
I think,
connection feels off.
yeah, so there is someone I know, someone very dearly close to me, I know, who used to be a preacher, okay, who used to be a spiritual preacher. And because of a stroke and because of paralysis, this person can't speak clearly. He speaks,
Oh,
but he cannot speak clearly. So,
okay.
it's like that. Like, it's in this chapter, the thing that we are not revealing is that what is the sense that this person, the protagonist, Ardas, she's the protagonist here, and she loses something, right? She
Hmm.
loses something very critical, but it's something that people cannot notice. It's something that people, can't really understand, but it's too big for her. It's the thing that connects her to so many things that she used to really critically love,
Yeah.
right? So that is lost from her,
Right.
and now that connection is disappeared. Like, she doesn't know what to do. So, like you said, if you like writing or if you like reading, and I don't know, I mean, like, I love colors. Okay. So, like, you took the example of colorblind people, it would take away so much, right? It would take
Yeah.
away so much. And it's so difficult for anybody to understand. Like, you've not lost anything major. People would
Yeah.
obviously always think that, right? That you've not lost anything major, but this loss is what forms your bond with people, with places, with passion.
Yeah.
And it's like a complex web of sensory, emotional, and cognitive associations, I guess,
Right. But
that takes a big toll.
Yeah, but I want to tell people here that yes, color blindness can be fixed. There are various glasses that do come,
Correct.
so that is a fixable thing. But this
Right.
particular loss that has taken place in Sneha's seventh chapter cannot be fixed.
Fixed.
And I mean, the first
It's a
time when I
permanent.
heard about it, I was like, what is even that? What is that? And then I actually had to Google. I'm like, oh man, this is there? Is this a thing? So yeah, that's
Yeah.
the worst part. No one notices, especially the loss that you have, ascribed in
Mentioned.
your chapter. Yeah, and over there, of course, they're all there clapping for you, cheering for you. Before we move on to the conversation, I want you to read a particular para so that people have an idea of what we're talking.
Yeah. When you said something just now, that felt so relatable to what I was about to read. So I'll read a part of the paragraph that says there were very slim chances of her survival and survival with normalcy. This was a comeback from something that nearly took her life. They said, "You being with us is a miracle, Ardas. We must celebrate God's mercies."
Yeah.
So, to give a little more context, she has been told what she has lost. I mean, she knows that she has lost it, but she was not told. And just before they say this, they, as in her family, her people, her friends, they tell her that this is what has happened to you. And what they are asking her to focus on is the fact that you have returned with normalcy and everything is fine. And this is a great mercy. But for her, the world looks completely different now, right?
Yeah. In your chapter, as you were saying this, people did not know that there is a loss of a particular sense, but
Mm.
she discovers it. So it's a slow loss of something that used to really shape her and define her whole
Her
identity.
identity.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's an amazing reply to people about, how the paragraph reading and the questions, answers that you are giving is really, I'm sure people may not be able to relate to the conversation right now unless they actually
Right
read the
now.
chapter, because we are trying to hit around
Absolutely.
the bush legit on particular reasons
Yes.
because we don't want to give away a lot on this podcast. So, yeah,
Right.
another
And
question.
for read the chapter, I think it's going to be a great blast listening to what we are saying here.
Absolutely. So another
Right.
question is like your protagonist, can she still call it love when she cannot experience it the same way anymore?
I think the answer to that, if I put myself in the place of the protagonist, I would say yes. It is still love, even though you don't feel about it the same way because of losing something, right?
Mm.
So if you're willing to let love evolve, because love is not static, right?
Mm.
It's not in one place. Like even with a person or even with a thing, it's never the same.
It's
It's
limitless.
always, yes, it's limitless and it's tipsy turvy. It has its ups and downs, curves, so it expands and contracts and it shifts. So when something becomes unfamiliar, it does not necessarily mean it's a loss of love.
Mm-hmm.
It may be more inviting, to discover that it's a sort of a new thing that we are discovering without the cues of something that was, left behind, without something that we relied on. So I think it's still love.
It
Like,
okay.
I'll take the example of the person who preaches. In spite of not being able to speak very clearly, that love for preaching is not gone, right?
Right.
The person is still preaching, the person is still speaking. Now it's for you to decode what he or she is saying, or it's for someone to help him make people understand what he's saying, but that's still continuing. Like, I'm just taking an example, like hypothetical situation.
Interesting. That's a very interesting way of answering this question because, of course, there are various gray areas where people can still call it
Yeah.
love or whether they are supposed to suddenly not fall in love with and they start hating it. There is a love hate relationship for sure
Yeah.
because they're
Yes.
frustrated for not being able to do what they really liked, or maybe they are unable to accomplish it in that easiest manner as how it used to be. They're, just by the click of finger or at the blink of an eye. So that's there. Another, I think there's this one more question that came
I
to my mind when I was reading your para, the whole chapter actually. There are so many questions, but I'm going to leave you with three today. So you're under pressure today.
I'm loving this conversation, to be very honest. Like you always said, like when we were writing this book, so this is for the readers and for the listeners. When we were writing this book, this was Sarab's passion actual story. Like she was really looking forward to what I'm going to be doing with this one. And
Yeah.
I think she really liked the way it turned out. So she's like, it's got a special place for Saram.
Yeah, so today
So
we've not
definitely
picked
the
any questions from other people, but I have literally curated these questions and I'm like, okay, no, I have question. I'm going to take her case today.
I'm loving this.
Okay, so last one is what happens to one's sense of self part when one is quietly losing or realizing that this has happened to them and this is the loss that has happened to them. And unfortunately, because this is a sense that we're talking about that no one else can really feel it also. So it's a very tricky
Right.
situation. I mean, like if you are deaf,
It's
mute,
like
it's
migraine.
different situation that you can see, that the person is having a difficulty. But this is something like, yeah, like you're saying, it's a migraine situation. So this is something that is not visible. Again, migraine situation, you are going to say, my head is hurting. But in this, you can't really even
Yeah.
say anything. You can't make anyone
Yeah,
feel
but
your
there, yeah,
pain.
yeah, yes. And it's not visible. So like, yeah.
So yeah, I need
So
you to tell me that how does one really cope without knowing how they're supposed to realize?
so if we are talking from an identity standpoint, if I understand your question correctly, when you're losing your identity, your craft or your daily rhythm, it's sort of slipping away silently from your fingers, right?
Correct.
And you're watching yourself dissolve like in slow motion, like how they show in the movies, like everything is happening in the slow motion when you're so buzzed in your head and everything around you is moving,
Mm-hmm.
but you're like stagnant and you're like slowly dissolving and you don't know what to do about it. So it kind of mirrors a situation called silent erosion, right? Where the world continues as usual, but internally there's like a quiet unrevealing that's happening. And the hardest part of all of this is that no one notices. It feels like, even your own disappearance is invisible, like you're slowly disappearing, but nobody is noticing. So we
Mm-hmm.
build our sense of self through repetition, right? Through
Mm-hmm.
sensory feedback and emotional resonance.
Mm-hmm.
So when one of these is about to fade or is fading or has faded, especially when it's so subtle that others cannot perceive it, it leads to a sort of alienation, I would say. So
Okay.
you're present, but you're not fully there. And you go through the motion, like you go through all the motions, you're doing everything, but something is missing. And only you know that it's missing, and you
Yeah.
don't know how to cope with that void.
That's so
And because
sad.
others don't see what you have lost, you begin to question if you ever allowed, if you were allowed to grieve it. Like, you're grieving, but you don't know how to grieve it. You don't know
Yeah.
how to share that grief. So it's sort of a, like I said, silent erosion of some very critical part of you that's going
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
And if I want to disclose a little bit here, I think I would just say that we are talking about a sensory loss. So we have 5 sense organs, and we are talking about a sensory loss. So you're grieving the loss of a sensory thing, which is not visible to others, and you don't know if you're even allowed to grieve it out fully.
Yeah, because not everyone is actually going to understand. They are not in the same boat. So it's not
Like
easily
her family
understood.
is telling her, right, from the paragraph that we read, her family says that you have to concentrate on God's mercies. You have come back normal, you're able to function normally, but there's this part of her that feels so lost, and there's this internal dissonance, an identity diffusion. She's in a state where she's so disconnected from her previous life and her previous role, although to everybody else she appears exactly the same. So
Over here, I want to also add in that our main character here, Ardas, has not had one loss but two. So now both the
yes,
losses will not be disclosed here because we really want you to actually see what it is
and
about,
see and
read
yes,
what it's about,
yes,
because this one is actually going to blow your mind. It's completely different.
yes,
For me, I was blown by it despite of me being an avid reader, fictional. I love fiction genre and I read a lot of books. I was blown by this particular topic and I'm like, okay, how did I not come across this? So this could be our USP
yeah.
chapter that you guys have to purchase 13 Stitches, which is available on
Sure.
Amazon, Flipkart, and it's available with us. So you guys can easily DM us for a signed copy.
Yes, I always make sure I show the book because
Yes.
the cover is interesting. The cover is so interesting that a lot of people have complimented us for it. So
Yeah.
get your hands on the book and then you will know what we are talking about. Otherwise, all this is also going to feel very alienating for you.
True. Cool. This was a great episode, and I guess we are going to see them next for our eighth chapter, eighth stitch. And
Yes.
I am going to make it all spicy and tangy.
Awesome. I look forward to Sarab's episodes because her stories are unique, her concepts are unique, and each story has something so drastic. Like, it's holding you
Dramatic,
every sentence.
full drama.
Yes, every sentence to sentence, the story is holding the reader like, don't you dare go away. You need to know what's next, sort of, so
No, but that's
very
the
interesting.
same way of yours, yeah, because you have also really, every story is really different. Yours, I don't think I can connect any one to another one. And that's the whole point of 13 Stitches. It's supposed to have all 13 different types of variations of stories. I still remember how we worked our asses off, if that's okay to say, really searching for the crux first and then building the story.
Yes,
So
the
our
stories.
foundation is really
Exactly.
strong, which is super cool.
Right. And it's something that will intrigue every reader, every page, every sentence.
Absolutely.
I'm not self-praising, but we've got to have appreciation for our own selves. So we really appreciate what we've done and we want you to appreciate it too. So please look for the link in the description box or in the caption wherever you're watching us. And we shall see you in the next episode.
Okay, bye. See you guys.
Bye-bye.